Hello and welcome to The Curators, a podcast about game projects on Kickstarter. I'm Joey.
And I'm Marcelo. You can find all the games from this episode as well as plenty of others at our curated page at kickstarter.com/gamerati.
You can also find links to each of these projects in the show notes of this episode at thecurators.gamerati.com. If you're a backer at any of these projects, we'd love to hear from you. You can email us at thecurators@gamerati.com. Tell us why you're backing a certain project, and we may feature your email on the podcast.
So, Joey, I think you go first this time.
I do go first. I'm looking at the game Merchant's Cove that only has 13 days to go from the time of the recording. So I've talked about Final Frontier games a couple times. They did a game called Rise to Nobility that I backed, and I backed the expansion. The expansion should be on its way pretty soon. And I really like it. It's a really great worker placement game. It's got some really fun elements. It's got some early game and late game stuff. It's got ways that you could pivot to make new victory points in a different way. It's got all kinds of different stuff that you get to do in the game. And it's got really great art. And then a few months ago, I talked about Coloma, which was their most recent one besides Merchant's Cove, which is another Euro-style, I guess, worker placement. It had some other elements to it. But Merchant's Cove is a totally different game that has the same art style from the Miko, my favorite artist. And this one is highly asymmetrical. There's actually 4 characters that this game comes with. So the base idea is that there are people coming to the ports and they want to buy specific goods. And the goods are color-coded to the meeples that are showing up. So there's green and blue and yellow and red, essentially. And I believe that there's also gray. And what you're trying to do is basically make those resources, I guess you could call them. You'd make those goods or resources for the people to purchase. And how you make them is different depending on which character you are. And what you actively make is kind of regardless of the fact that you're making a red resource. So while let's scroll down here so I can get the names right. While the sea captain generates fish, you're still generating like a red, a blue, or a green. And while the blacksmith generates like swords and helmets, they're still generating blue and green and yellow and red, like valued resources. So you're still kind of like creating the same things a little bit, but at different quantities, at different styles, and they just look a little bit different. But the 4 characters are the alchemist, who does this like marble placement thing where you're trying to like put specific marbles into your little cauldrons to create your resources in a different way. Whereas the blacksmith has dice placement. He'll roll dice and he'll try to spin them up or down to get exactly what he needs to build specific goods and then be able to sell them to the people. Then the sea captain actually goes out and tries to find goods out in the cove. And so theirs is more of like a press your luck kind of thing where they do a spinner based on their cursed compass. And then the chronomancer actually does like tile laying and a totally different thing where they try to like manipulate the time frame that things are happening in. And theirs is a totally different style of play anyway, but theirs is kind of odd. And I talk about the time frame thing because each character also has to work on the time dial that's in like the bottom of the board. If you're looking at the very top of the glory shot that's in the Kickstarter video, the bottom of the board has this little circle on it, and that's like a time dial. And when you do your actions, you move your little marker down the time tracker. So this also has that same element of like when I move my time marker, like let's say 3 hours, I move it 3 spaces. Now the person who is furthest behind gets to go next. So if I moved it like 3 spaces, then that person, if they've got single hour or single use powers that only move them 1 space, they'd get to go multiple times in a row. I really like that mechanic, actually. I like the idea of if I do this one really powerful thing, you might do 3 smaller things, and I have to wager whether that's worth it to me or not. because that's kind of an interesting puzzle, I guess I like figuring out. And then this game also adds a lot of other elements, like there's workers that anyone can add to their player board that allows them to get better resources. There's just more townsfolk. There's even like corruption that you have to unseat. And there's different modules that you can add to it that include mercenaries and other sailors and locals and all kinds of stuff. And then they're also offering 2 extra expansions.
They offered the expansions right away on the Kickstarter.
That's right. This particular one, the Secret Stash, is free for all Kickstarter backers that will order the base game. So I like that. That one's really cool. And you get to like open boxes when you do it, like, or when you turn the time counter a whole bunch of numbers. So like when it goes past like a day, you'll get to open like a special box in the Merchant's Cove Secret Stash, which is kind of a fun little side thing. And then the other characters, I'm trying to scroll down the page because I know that there's more characters that are add-ons. The Innkeeper and the Oracle, I believe, are the 2 that they have available, and they're each an extra $19. The Innkeeper has little beds that are worth points and are color coded. So like when you fill your beds, you get your points, and you're trying to sell drinks, and you have other goods, by which you are making the red, the blue, the yellow, and the green point structures, which is kind of fun. And then the Oracle has this like whole other board that's like they deal with divining dice, and they have a little dice tray that they roll them in, and you have like it's kind of a roll and write mechanic, I believe theirs is. And everything in this game is just really well produced. You get a bunch of miniatures, you get a bunch of different cardboard standee stuff. So like everybody gets a little table that they get to place their goods on, so that when the people come to their specific player board, they have this little table with stuff that they sell. And when the people show up to the cove, they're in these little like cardboard longboats that are really cool looking. You get to kind of build them before you start the game, and then keep them in the box so that they retain their shape, and they hold a certain number of meeples, so that's how you know that they're full, and then they arrive and buy goods based on their color. So I think the whole game looks really interesting. It looks like a lot of fun. It is not cheap. It looks like a huge game, and to get everything, it's $110 plus shipping. And the shipping will be collected later, but I can't imagine it's actually going to be very cheap. Like if I scroll all the way down to the shipping area, Zone A, even for the United States, is minimum $15, and I think that that's really conservative. So I get the feeling that they may either they're supplementing it, or they're gonna come and back, in the backer kit and go like, hey guys, look, it's actually about $18 or $19. Because if a lot of people get the all in, we're looking at 3 large boxes to be shipped with, at least 3 large boxes. I don't know if the add-on that everybody gets, the Secret Stash, is going to be its separate box. It looks like it is on the Kickstarter, but hard to say. So, but that's Merchant's Cove by Final Frontier Games. I think it looks like a really good one, and I hope to back it. I'm not sure if I'll be able to, but if I had the means and the people to play it with me, I would 100% back this game.
You're not the only one. Of the $40,000 they need, they are already over $300,000 with 3,500 backers. It's a lot of people.
It's a lot of people. Like they're making some really good games. I had the opportunity to back their 2 of their games. Well, 3, I guess, if you consider the expansion. I did back Robin Hood, though I couldn't really find anyone to play with, so I had to end up selling that one. I backed Rise to Nobility, still one of my favorites, and the expansion. I missed out on Coloma. I'm probably going to miss out on Merchant's Cove, and it's disappointing, honestly, because I really think that what they're doing is a lot of fun. So what do you have for us, Marcelo? Another board game?
This time I have an RPG inspired by a miniature game. I'm very excited about this game, man. Kings of War, the role-playing game. Kings of War is a miniature game, miniature war game, developed into 2010, I believe, by a guy called Alessio Calvatore for Mantic Games. He developed the Kings of War. He already worked on stuff such as the Lord of the Rings, Battle Game, War Master, Warhammer, and a bunch of stuff for Games Workshop. He developed this idea of this game in which your miniatures are not single units. You have battalions and platoons. You play with a unit that is actually a lot of miniatures in there. The power of the force of your units depend on the size of them. It's my favorite fantasy war game of all time. I usually like sci-fi stuff. But I love Kings of War. Ironically, I don't own one single miniature. It's just like when people want to play BattleTech with me. They don't need to have any miniatures. Every time I played BattleTech, I used my collection. So it's the same thing. I have a bunch of friends that has Kings of War and the Vanguard version, which is another version of the game. And we play a lot of that, and I don't need to have any miniatures because they already have them. They like to paint. I like to paint. I help them painting. Anyhow, now they're releasing a role-playing game using the scenario of the game. It's awesome. I can barely contain myself. It's being developed by Mark Langworthy from Red Scar. It's 18 days to go. They need 15,000 pounds sterling. They are over 10,000 US dollars with 176 backers. With 18 days to go, they're going to make it. And I'm helping, at least on the PDF front. But I'm seriously considering getting the physical copy. Problem is, it's in pounds. The convert rate is more than 5-1 for reals. I don't have any money right now, but let's see. So, Kings of War role-playing game explores the world that Mantic Games has recently expanded. For years, the world of the Kings of War was the Mantica world because of Mantic Games, Mantica, the world. They just announced the third edition of the rules for the miniature war game, in which the world is expanded and it has the name Pennythor. Before that, you had Mantica and the Uncharted Empires, the stuff around. But now it's a whole world called Pennythor. And they are adding newer factions. You have your basics. You have your humans, your elves, orcs, but you have dwarves and goblins and beastmen and demons and shadow creatures. There's a lot of stuff here. There's the main realms, so to speak, and those Uncharted Empires that now are part of the whole Pennythor. The RPG is, because he's doing with the help and the blessing of Mantic Games, he's adding newer factions that don't exist in any of the games. The dungeon crawling game is called Adventure Saga, the Vanguard game, or the regular Kings of War. And the book is made so that you can mix and match and use stuff from the different games, the board game, which is the Kings of War Vanguard, or the miniature game, and even use the miniatures if you want on the RPG, or use the RPG with your miniatures. It's a 320-page core rule book, hardcover, full-colored, that comes with rules. It's called three-core. It's called three-core system. You use 3d10 at least, although there's stuff on the game that allows you to go all the way up to 6d10. That's why the die set that comes as an add-on, it comes with 6d10, 3 one color, 3 the other. And they plan to also release as a 5e, a D&D 5e rule set. There are quick starts for the 3-core, which I liked a lot, but there is also a quick start for the 5e, for the D&D 5e version, which is nice. I like seeing new engine systems, but it's good to see that they are using also a very popular license. So the game is incredibly simple. You have 3 stats. You have body, you have mind, and you have social. and you roll each one of those, attributes gives you 1 dice. So you roll 3d10. But there's a lot of stuff that gives you more dice. The DM or GM, I should say, gives you a target number. You have to have 2 successes, the dice at least 4 on the dice. You can go from 1 to 6 on the dice. 1 is very easy, and 6 is epic, and you need a certain number of successes. And there's stuff that gives you edges. For example, if you are picking a lock and you have specialized tools, you get +1 die. If you have some kind of specialization that allows you to pick locks better, you get another dice, all the way up to 6 dice. And you also have paybacks. In essence, you count all the successes on your dice, and you count your failures, your number ones. Every one gives you a payback. So if you're trying to vault over a wall, and you get your, 2 or 3 successes, however many the DM told you should have, but you also get a 1. You also roll a 1. So the DM or the GM will give you some disadvantage. Maybe you let go of your magic sword or something like that. So it's designed to be very simple, very quick, and very instinctive. The base pledge is with $15, £15, which is 16 euros or 18 US dollars. You get the PDF of the RPG plus your name on the backer credits and all the add-ons. For £35, you get the hardcover book, PDF, all stretch goals, and access to all the add-ons. With £60, you get the game in PDF and hardcover, a GM screen, a set of 6 dice for the game, all stretch goals, your name in the backer credits, and access to add-ons. And then there's the 115 level pledge, the 300 level pledge, and let's see here, also some extra content. They already are preparing the 17,000 extra goal with more content, with even more pages. The book will get thicker, and extra artwork at the 20,000. I like to see those Kickstarter games. I don't have anything against a big company doing a Kickstarter for the hype. I think it's cool. But I like to see companies that actually really need the extra money to do extra stuff for the backers. Let's see what else we have here. There's very interesting add-ons here. You can add for $50, you can add the Dungeon Saga, which is the board game from Kings of War. You can get a second core rule book. You can get only the core rule book and the GM. You back on the base and add £20 for the GM. There is a set of miniature evil undead miniature set for £13. An extra set of die for £8, and for extra £5 you get a gigantic poster. It's your typical fantasy game with elves and dwarfs and abyssal dwarfs, which was the one that I like the most, and humans and undead and demons, but it's in a world they are having 2 decades of constant war. Everybody's at war with everybody because all the gods are at war. There's even a chasm in the middle of the map of the realm in which some gods fell and died, and there's chaos magic everywhere, and opened up a path for the underworld. And because of that, everybody's a hero. Like the barkeep knows how to wield a hammer. So it's a game since everybody's a hero. Imagine that everybody's a D&D character. So your characters are really exceptional. You have the kind of battles that change the face or the destiny of a realm, and they have the basic alignments from D&D. You can have good factions, neutral factions, and the factions of darkness. And you have different ways of mixing, because the neutral factions can ally with both, but the good factions can never align with the underworld faction. It's D&D overdrive. It's D&D on overdrive. That's why I like it so much. It's like it's an exaggeration. Everything is over the top. There's nothing discreet in Kings of War when you play Kings of War. Everybody's enormous with gigantic hammers or axes or 3 swords, that kind of stuff.
Nice.
So yeah, $10,000 of what they need, the $18,000, sent 176 backers, 18 days to go from Red Scar with the blessing of Mantic Games. Because anything he does in his book will be official for the lore of all the other games from Kings of War.
All right.
I think that's it.
That's it.
Oh, sorry.
That's it for another episode of the show. I was about to do it. All right. Well, if you have any questions about the games we featured, or if you'd like us to consider a game on the podcast, feel free to email us at thecurators@gamerati.com, and we will answer you on the podcast.
You can also reach Joey and myself on Twitter and Facebook at Gamerati. The show notes for this episode and all our episodes are at thecurators.gamerati.com. You can also find The Curators on Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, Stitcher, and Spotify.
And don't forget to check out our curated page at kickstarter.com/Gamerati. We're also on YouTube at youtube.com/Gamerati.
All right, Joey, let's see if I get excited about the next project as much as I was for this one.
Oh, I don't know, man. You're always excited.
It's true. See you next week.